100 hours remain. The moonlight shone brightly over the cabin wreckage, the silent snores and heavy breathing of students filled the rooms. Momo and Todoroki silently slept, sitting on the couch, while Kirishima fell asleep in a sitting position with Mina sleeping still laying on his lap. Ochako, silently creeping into the living room, laid a blanket over each couple. Ochako walked to the side of the cabin, looking out over the moonlight mountains before jumping out the hole in the wall. Silently she glided through the snowy forest, taking the usual route her and Izuku got so used to traveling down until she landed. She stared as the pink-leaved forest shone, rays of moonlight shining through the leaves as the remaining deer dug their snouts into the snow to find any remaining grass sticking out. Ochako walked down the path towards the last place her and Izuku enjoyed being together that wasn't destroyed. As the structure came into view, Ochako pushed the gate separating her and her destination aside and stared up at the building. Oshagiri Shrine, where the experimenters probably found and abused Hima. They found this secluded shrine and turned it from an already abandoned home of Hima and made it a nightmare. Ochako walked up the stairs and into the unlit shrine, darkness encasing her. She had never really paid attention to the first level, either always being on the stairs or on the second level with Hima when she was sick. Ochako sat in front of the ancient shrine at the end of the room, perfectly centered between the wooden stairs leading up to the second level, and prayed. Prayed for Izuku's safety, for her family's freedom, for the world's safety. Turn this nightmare into something at least hopeful, even if just a little. I figured you'd be here. Ochako sighed, recognizing the rough voice that intruded on her alone time. What do you want, Bakugo? Ochako asked, turning on her knees to see the blonde standing in the doorway, the snowy pink forest and bright moonlight behind his shadowy figure. It's dangerous out here. According to Half and Half Bastard's girlfriend, the Nomu are still searching for you and them. There's no telling when they'll make their way here. Bakugo said, walking into the shrine. Thanks for the warning. I'll keep it in mind. Ochako said a bit rudely. Bakugo was not the person she needed to be around right now. Bakugo stopped for a second, debating his options, before turning back and sitting on the steps right outside the shrine entrance. Ochako brought her fingers to the bridge of her nose. Bakugo, I don't need you here right now. Ochako yelled. Bakugo didn't respond, remaining to sit in the moonlight. Ochako's eyes started to fill with anger, a temple on her forehead appearing. She stood, now walking over to Bakugo, not fully knowing what she was gonna do, but she was going to do something. I'm sorry, Bakugo said. Ochako stopped in her tracks, halfway through the shrine. Did Bakugo just apologize? I told you I would make sure to prove to you why I would be number one. And that guy in the trench coat. He showed me that I just wasn't ready. The nerd put up more of a fight than I did from what I've been told. You put faith in me as a hero. And I fucking failed. Again, I'm the reason your boyfriend isn't here right now. Worst part is, I can't even fucking remember what happened. The temple on Ochako's forehead disappeared. She was going to let loose on him, but he was hurting all the same. Ochako advanced a lot slower than before, choosing to sit on the steps next to Bakugo. We all failed, Ochako said. I failed. I had him. All I had to do was knock the guy out before he went into the portal. I was this close, and I let the guy touch me. Memories gone. The two sat next to each other for a time, silence between them. I do have to thank you, Ochako said suddenly. Bakugo didn't respond but flinched. The cabin had video cameras. Aizawa told me before we left. They were connected to the computer in the desk. Izuku didn't know. I watched what happened. You protected Hima and Eri. Instead of charging into the fight like you usually did, you protected them. Bakugo shook his head. I don't remember. It doesn't matter if you remember or not, you did, Ochako said, cutting him off. You and Izuku, from what I can tell after you guys left the house, you guys tired him out. We were able to save those two at least. The two sat in silence again. You aren't happy with that though, Bakugo said. It wasn't a question. Ochako's eyes darkened as she shook her head. He's the most important person to me. Bakugo's hair covered his eyes. When we were little, the nerd always followed me around, especially after I got my quirk. Everyone told me I was gifted, my quirk was amazing, I was the best. I got that idea stuck in my head. One day, I fell into a river and Deku. He came down to see if I was okay. Held out his hand to see if I was okay. Me, his worthless and quirkless self. Ochako felt a pang of frustration. Why was he telling her this now of all times? If I could go back, I would have taken his hand. Ochako's gaze shot towards Bakugo in surprise. Bakugo's usually angry red eyes seemed calm and collected as he stared straight ahead at nothing. However, in the mind of Bakugo, all he could envision was him in that pond, reaching out to take the hand of elementary school Deku, though right before he could grasp his hand, Deku would constantly disappear. Each and every time he replayed the scene in his head, Ochako brought her knees to her chest. What do you think they'll do to him? She whispered. The longer he's gone, the more they can do. They've probably already erased all his memories at this point. Bakugo didn't respond for a while. Ochako leaned her chin into her knees as she continued to hold him close. She saw what they had did to Hima. If they did all that to Hima, what lengths would they go to in order to steal one for all? Deku, even without a quirk, always fought and acted on his will. As long as his will is still there. Bakugo looked down at the palm of his hands. He'll make it out okay. And I'll crush anyone who dares hurt him. He's been through enough pain as is. Bakugo closed his fist, staring up at the moon. We'll get him back. Ochako, tears once again starting to fall down her face, nodded as she too stared up at into the moon's light. You girls ready? Ochako called out from the bottom of the cabin's wooden stairs. Hima and Eri both ran out, zooming down the stairs. Ready, they called out, backpacks on their shoulders. Good, go sit on the couch all right, Ochako said. The girls nodded as they jogged over to the couch, sitting down waiting for their next instructions. Ochako opened her now cracked flip phone, checking the time. It was about midday. Bakugo, hurry up, we're going to be late. Ochako yelled. Shut the fuck up, I'm moving, an angry voice of Bakugo yelled down. Ochako took a deep breath as her eyes closed and her brow furrowed in frustration. Eri and Hima giggled from the couch. Baku is gonna make us late. Eri said giggling. Yes, Baku will make us late, if he doesn't move his ass. Ochako yelled that last part. Bakugo's door slammed open as he carried his large backpack of stuff. I said shut the fuck up. You're the one WHO said we can't take everything. We'll be undercover and probably on the run if the school doesn't have any protection over us. What is there to take other than clothes? Your romance manga. Ochako yelled back as Bakugo stomped his way down the stairs. His eyes glue red as he turned his angry gaze towards Eri. Did you tell her? Bakugo yelled. Eri however smiled and shrugged, knowing full well Bakugo would never hurt her. If anything, he would only ever give her reluctant head pats. No, I saw when I was bandaging you up in your room. Ochako yelled. Now come on. The rest of them went to grab their essentials from the apartment they had rented out. We're meeting them by the docks, Ochako said as she turned towards the door, using a finger to signal the girls on the couch to come. Bakugo clicked his tongue as he moved to follow. All of them stood by the door, turning to glance at the cabin one last time. The once clean, homely cabin now stood before them, missing a wall, holes in the roof, melted snow and wooden shards everywhere. Food, dishes, furniture, the hanging TV, all destroyed. Ochako saw faded visions of their past life in this place. Izuku and Ochako cooking, Ochako doing the girl's hair on the couch, Bakugo with Eri in his lap on the couch reading a book, sitting at the kitchen table reacting to Bakugo's spicy cooking. Even with Bakugo here, this really had become home. Ochako felt a hand squeeze her. She looked down to see Hima squeezing her hand, staring into the house, tears falling down her face. Ochako hadn't realized how old she was. She had been trapped in that shrine for about 10 years. She had to be at least 11 or 12 at this point. Her illusions had always made herself look a bit older. Was she trying to fit in? Still, abandoned at that shrine at such a young age, only to be picked up by the Liberation and all for one to experiment on. There had to be a bit more to it. Ochako swore there was more information on the Oshagiri family. However, all Ochako saw right now was a girl, who was leaving her first ever home. Her first real home. Don't worry Hima, home isn't where you live happily, Ochako said, gripping her hand. It's where your family is. Come on everyone. Let's go. The group walked out the door. Ochako zero-gravitied each person and Bako, reluctantly, allowed them to grip onto his shirt. With a couple of explosions, they were flying quickly away from the cabin. Ochako looked back one last time, the cabin getting smaller and smaller as they flew away. A few more singular tears fell. Goodbye, Izuku. I'll save you. I swear.